up, world? Coach Summit coming at you here at the Temple of Health, where we cover all things holistic, breathwork, stress management, sleep, improving your nutrition, talking about fitness, biomechanics, your inner organs, loving thyself, all that good stuff. And today we're going to go over one of the most controversial topics of all time. What is the best diet ever? Why, please, you can close this video now if you don't like it. But we're going to go over it right now. My thoughts, my opinions, the whole concept of what I do and what I share and what I teach is to understand grander scales of living so that we can essentially create our own template for me. So you already know that the best diet is not going to be any of these things that I'm saying here. Paleo, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, carnivore, keto, your grandma's favorite dish, the Spanish diet, the caveman diet, the breatharian, anything. There's so many things out there. We've seen it all under the sun. And my whole entire premise, once again, is to bring up concepts to teach to you, to share with you, that you can essentially end up using for your own template, once again. And I will believe that in this whole circle, we're always doing a loop-de-loop, the next science fad, the next I read this and it did this for me. We need to explore. This magic word gives us a loop-de-loop of our own ethos of doing things. In order to explore, we must venture into the fact that we're humans, that we have genetics, we are always privy to nature's law, the environment, stressors, and the mind. And so let's carve it down bit by bit, because all of these things, all the diets under the sun could work. But let's figure out what is it that we truly need ultimately at the end of the day, which is my needs. And my needs are different than your needs, but we are human, right? Being human means that we are always going to be subject to so many things around us. Our inner self, biologically, the way our mind's eye works, how we see ourselves, what works for you may not work for me because your lifestyle is different than mine. I am an athlete. You can be a desk job worker. I am a gymnast. You are a shark, whatever the case may be. But all I'm saying is at the end of the day is that we always have something different, right? And so I have the ability as a human to choose what fits my needs. I have the ability to explore, right? And that's what makes us different than a lot of animals out there in the world. The next thing is genetics. Now, genes are super, super important because how close you are to the equator and how far you are from the equator can mean a lot of different things, from your ancestry to your nutrigenetics, which everybody should be studying. And by genes, you can't tell an Eskimo to eat vegetarian. His environment, her environment, their environment does not call for it. It's all nothing but ice. Anybody doing an expedition to Antarctica, anybody living in Antarctica, if you live in Antarctica, can't exactly have all the veggies and fruits or carbs. If you live in Alaska, same thing. There aren't animals there that you might not even be able to eat, right? Like some animals you may not even be able to ever hunt because they're so far down in the ocean. Some animals, like me, may be able to hunt penguin and polar bear, so you got nothing but a whole bunch of blubber. The point of the fact of the matter is that wherever your environment is can dictate what you have your resources to, what you get to eat. So sometimes there is no choice. The other aspect of your genetics is, let's say you might have a genetic background, I don't know, you're from Norway, so, or you have a Celtic background or something like that. You might have a predisposition to wanting to eat more meat and heavy starches, right? But let's say you moved to a metropolitan city like Miami. Well, now you have different levels of food. The quality of food is different from Europe to America, tremendously different. You may deal with different toxicity. Why? Because there could be more pollutants, more cars in a metropolitan city than there are in a Mongolian village. Scenarios. What's your job like? What's your time like? What's the temperature? Are you exposed to all 4 seasons? Are you just living in one season, right? And the other concept of temperature and scenarios is not all fruits are always in season. So you could be eating an orange when it's the completely wrong season for eating that orange, but you can because that's what the resources that you have. So it's different. And genetics can change via the mind and via stressors. So we aren't really slaves to our genetics. They give us an outline on where we should look at and what we have, you know, what's kind of accessible to our genes, what's great for our genes. That doesn't always mean that we have everything picture perfect, right? This is life. The nature's law I'm going to leave a little bit for last, but I want to talk about how I was talking about the mind and stress. Genetics can change under these two guys, right? Genetics and stress, or stresses in the mind. How you view yourself, how you see yourself, how you want to look strong, powerful, and agile, or sedentary, or just chilled, right? It really does mean something. Your mind's eye plays a huge role on so many different factors, so many unseen factors. And this is why we're already getting away from the best diet. Sometimes we forget about the mind, and the mind gets affected by stress. And if you saw my last video on dietary influence, you'll know that stress usually needs a favorable response, meaning that if you cannot survive the certain type of threshold that you're being put through, you may not adapt nor thrive. So this is something else that we must keep in mind when it comes to what we're stressed about, what we're stressing, and how adaptable we are to thrive, to have a strong mind, and to even use the mind to combat certain stresses. So these things are always interplaying together. Nature's law is huge. Nature's presumption is to essentially make the stronger stronger and the weaker weaker. Nature's always eliminating and rebuilding, eliminating and rebuilding. The lion eats the zebra lives a favorable life. But these are kind of the processes of life. When we pass away, we go into the fertile soil ground and we heal it to some degree, right? Well, that's depending on what your beliefs are, what you think are, but you know we have this life and death cycle. And so this is why we must understand that nature at the end of the day is saying to you, your biological factor, your biological genome, is that you need to find what is best suited for you to work at that given time, at that given moment. Either it's for a long period of time, a short window, because maybe you're traveling to, I don't know, Spain, Italy, Saskatchewan, Prussia, Kazakhstan. The hours can be different from here to North Dakota. And so now it's breakfast for them, but it's like dinner for you. So these are other things, right? Traveling, once again, environment coming into play. So nature is always giving you a sign to say, hey, we're working with you, but you got to be very aware of what you're putting in you to function at that moment in time the best way possible for your health. Health at the end of the day is also how you are functioning as a whole, which brings me with all these things into how we come about our inner voice. And I think that the inner voice is what really guides us throughout this whole exploration. Who am I at this time? How did this food treat me? How did I react? If I know personally me that if I'm training very, very hard, I am gonna eat some steak. It just works for me. Sometimes, literally, if I'm breaking down flesh and muscle to repair, aka nature's law, life and death, break and repair, chaos, order, I might have to eat some flesh back among some other nutrients to get myself back in order, right? If I know that I'm not going to be training, maybe I'm just chilled and relaxed, and I'll probably be vegetarian for that day. This is why I'm saying you have to know your inner voice. It's worthy to explore. And I've explored all these diets for a significant amount of time. And I've realized that my needs are different than a lot of people's. And my needs is what's going down in this very moment for my lifestyle. So follow your inner voice. The inner voice also helps us with this over here, the love triangle, the love diet, right? Me, who am I to myself? How do I love myself? How do I cherish myself? How do I honor me? How can I make healthy choices, right? And that's by exploring and figuring out your specific needs. This is why it's way beyond just what you read from a scientific article. Sometimes these articles are just paid for by the very companies who want to sell you a product. So you have to be cognizant of that. And that also brings about another factor in which this isn't enough. Why? Because the human is always changing. The human genome is always changing based on so many factors. So learn to love yourself. Healthy people make healthy choices, right? And so on and so forth. We want to have something that's sustainable. And I end this off with perhaps two things that I think are super important. Well, three. First one is everything in moderation, even moderation. That means that honestly, things are going to change and you're going to have to modify depending on where you are. That's it. Prayer and blessings is the most important thing. I don't know what your religion may be, and that's not really the case here. The case here is that we have a certain type of ability to give grace, to bestow our food with love and nurture. When someone cooks with love, you know they cook with love. And when you're gonna eat food, you gotta be grateful for it. Some people don't have the ability to eat. Some people don't even have the resources to have what they want to have. Some people miss meals, and not by accident or even on purpose, right? It's just is. Pray over your food, give it some grace. Be thankful for your blessings, right? These are something that just a lot of people don't have access to, right? Like all the foods, but you can pray, you can bless your food. So be thankful for the stuff that you have on your plate, right? You can't complain what's on your plate if your whole goal was to eat. The best diet at the end of the day is worth exploring, okay? So comment down below. Let me know what you think about these videos. I'm always going to be sharing an endless vlog now. I'm always going to be giving things in a lecture style. If you want to see more in-depth videos like this, we got courses on the templeofhealth.com. We got an 8-week course on the gut health, Wise Belly. We have a course for trainers, practitioners of health, doctors, therapists, known as primitive medicine. That is one of my joys. I love teaching this. Primitive functional nutrition. How can you go back and use food beyond the scope of just food as medicine and beyond the scope of what you're even learning? This is just like the tip of the iceberg. So we got more things coming at you. Let me know in the comments what you think. Please share this with your friends. Like, share, and subscribe. Blessings.